Spooky story time! I went to college in Westchester, New York, and the campus was super haunted. I lived in an apartment on campus, and one day I had to record an audition video. I made sure all my roommates were gone, I was home by myself, and I had my door to my bedroom completely shut, so the only way you could open it was to turn the knob and push hard, because it was a really old door. Well, guess who caught the ghost in action? Take a look at the doorknob. You can see it turn. I'm in love. The Spookies. Spooky story time! So I just got back from my trip to Salem, Massachusetts, so I figured, why not talk about the Salem witch trials? The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts. This occurred between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were accused, and 30 of them were found guilty. The accused were mainly women. The guilty were hung, drowned, pressed, or just died in the poor jail system. At this time, colonial Massachusetts was ruled by the hand of the Bible. Anyone who went against the Bible was accused of being a witch. Women who could read, using different types of medication, or even just defending the accused. It wasn't until 2001 that they passed an act exonerating all of those who were convicted. Spooky story time! So, Madame Delphine Lalaurie was a New Orleans Creole socialite in the early 1800s. She lived in a mansion in the French Quarter, which you can still see today. On April 10, 1834, rescuers responded to a fire at her Royal Street mansion. When they got there, they discovered bound slaves in her attic who showed evidence of cruel, violent abuse over an extended period of time. The crimes committed to these people ranged from being chained to being cut, and even one case of someone's bones broken so badly and rearranged that they looked unhuman-like. The people of New Orleans were outraged and created violent threats towards the family. This is when she escaped to France with her children. Records of her life after escaping to France are very unclear. However, she died at the age of 62. This was truly a horrible person, and in my opinion, a monster. To say that this gives me the spookies is a complete understatement. Spooky story time! We're gonna talk about the Devil's Tree. The Devil's Tree is an oak tree on a field on Mountain Road in Somerset County, New Jersey. Various legends surround the tree. A common claim is that the Bernards Township was one of the central headquarters for the KKK in New Jersey, and that the tree had been used to lynch slaves. Another claim is that a farmer hung himself from the tree after killing his entire family, and declared that anyone trying to cut down the tree will come to an untimely end. Other legends surrounding the tree allege that visitors who get too close to the tree will get chased by a black Ford pickup truck that will then disappear at a certain point. My advice? Just don't go near it, or just drive by as fast as possible. Legally. Gives you the spookies, doesn't it? Spooky story time! So I'm out here in Rochester, New York, camping with some friends, and I decided to talk about the local legend of the Lady in White. Some time ago, a woman and her teenage daughter lived in the area. There are several tales that follow this legend. One of those is that this woman was extremely protective of her daughter. But one day, the daughter went on a walk along the lake. The mother waited for hours for her daughter to come home, but she never showed. In fact, she never saw her daughter again. The woman spent years searching for her daughter until her death. However, locals who hike along the Durand Eastman Park area say that sometimes they can see a silhouette of a woman in all white rise out of the water. Also, reports from young lovers who drive up to the area say that they are sometimes chased away by a white shadow. Legend says that she is still looking for her daughter and is angry at young lovers for she fears that her daughter may have run off with a young boy. Well, the spookies. Spooky story time! So, my biggest fear in life is being eaten alive by a shark. I know it's a little bit ridiculous, but can't help it. So, happy Shark Week! Remember the movie Jaws? Well, even though it's a fictional movie, it might have actually been inspired by true events. Back in the summer of 1916, off the shores of New Jersey, 12 people lost their lives due to shark attacks within a 1-week time span. After a major frenzy, people caught a great white shark, and the killing spree happened to come to a close, although some believe that it may have been multiple sharks. These events in this country led to the unprecedented fear that we have of sharks. My fears are legit, though. Welp. Spooky story time. So a few weeks ago, I asked you all on Instagram to give me suggestions about what stories you'd like to hear. I got a few suggestions on UFO encounters, so let's dive into one of the first recorded UFO encounters in America. One night in 1961, Barney and Betty Hill were driving back home from Canada. They were in New Hampshire when Betty saw a bright light in the sky. She thought it was a shooting star until Barney pulled over and checked with his binoculars. This is when they started to drive away immediately because they knew they were in trouble. The couple reported that they heard beeping, buzzing, felt vibrations on their car, and then went into a state of dullness. When they came to, they were still driving, but 35 miles away from when they last remembered. They stated that when they arrived home, they were having strange urges and weird dreams. Betty even called the Air Force, and they confirmed that they caught a UFO on their radar. Spookies, like for part 2. Spooky story time, part 2. Remember Barney and Betty Hill? Well, they encountered a UFO, experiencing memory loss, strange urges, and weird dreams. They were frightened. After going under regressive hypnosis, they came to the conclusion that they were abducted by aliens. They remembered samples being taken of their hair, nails, skin, and bodily fluids. Now remember when I said that this was one of the first recorded encounters? That's what makes this story so interesting. There was no other cases for this couple to go off of. So were they really abducted? Was this real? Gives you the spookies just to think about it, huh? Well, check out part 1 if you have not yet. Cheers! Spooky story time. In San Jose, California lies the Winchester Mystery House. This private mansion has 160 rooms, doors that lead to 12-foot drops, staircases that lead to nowhere, and rooms that just shouldn't exist. It's a Victorian-style home with a weird history. This house was designed and owned by Sarah Winchester. She was the widow to the man who made the Winchester rifle. It is said that Sarah began construction and did not stop building until her death 38 years later in 1922. This property is also said to be haunted by many spirits who died at the hands of the rifles. It is speculated that this is why the layout of the mansion is very odd and confusing. Sarah allegedly believed that vengeful spirits would be after her, so she designed the house to confuse the ghosts, making it hard to reach her. Now the house is used mainly for tours and films. Talk about the spookies. Spooky story time. So for today's story, it's going to be a little bit different. I want to talk about the spirit board, better known as the Ouija board. So in the States, you need to be 21 to buy alcohol. You need to be 18 to go to war. But you only need to be 7 years old to play with the Ouija board and summon demons. That's right, you can summon a demon with the Ouija board. It's a divination tool. Now, there are many forms of divination, but the Ouija board is in fact one of them. Now, the issue with this is that if you do not properly close the game, then you can leave a spirit lingering. Not all spirits are good. Some are good, but some are bad. And you do not want a malevolent spirit roaming around your home. Please, 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 I beg of you, please reconsider before purchasing and or playing one of these. Because you know what? You will get the spookies. Spooky story time! Today, we're traveling to New York City's infamous Washington Square Park. Washington Square Park is the heart of Greenwich Village and is the unofficial campus of NYU. However, it has an interesting backstory. Beneath the beautiful landscape lies about 20,000 graves. During yellow fever outbreaks from 1791 to 1821, the city used the land as a mass grave site, especially for people who couldn't afford a burial. When burying the deceased, graves were quite shallow. After a while, bones would come arise and were moved. They say at night, spirits wander the location looking for their missing skeleton. The park is also home to New York's first hanging tree. Washington Square Park is one of New York's most haunted locations. And if that doesn't give you the spookies, well, happy October! Spooky story time. Since it's the month of October now, let's talk about some fall/Halloween traditions that have a spooky backstory. Let's talk about jack-o'-lanterns. Even though these pumpkins are cute and you get to carve them and put little flickering light in, you put it on your doorstep, they actually have a very significant backstory. You see, Halloween is the day where the veil between the spirit world and the real world is at its thinnest. So they were used to ward off evil spirits from entering people's homes. And even though you think kids' costumes are cute, well, they were originally created to confuse the spirits, to make them think that they were also evil spirits, so the children would not be abducted or possessed. So just keep all this in mind when you're out there trick-or-treating. Let's get right into it. Spooky story time! We're going to talk about the Black-Eyed Children. So what's interesting about the Black-Eyed Children is that stories about them have appeared from all over the world. The story usually starts with these children knocking at your door and telling you that they need help, whether their parents have had car issues or whatever the case may be. They want to come inside. Do not let them inside. Reports of people who have allowed these children into their home have experienced all types of paranormal activity, and it does not go away. Then again, I don't know why you would let these children into your home when they appear in the middle of the night, no parents, black eyes going on. Is this legend real? I don't know, but there have been many cases to make you question. The spookies. Spooky story time. Afraid of the dark? Maybe you should be. We've all heard about shadow people before. Many of us have even seen them. But what are they? The truth is they have many names. Some people call them demons, devils, or even ancient ones. Some are beings, some are spirits, some are even tricksters that intend to do harm. And encounters of shadow people predate biblical times. So the next time you think you see something out of the corner of your eye, know that you probably did. I advise you not to communicate or acknowledge them, and if you find yourself in a bit of trouble, do yourself a favor and contact a medium. And know that it's okay to be afraid of your shadow. Could give you the spookies. Spooky story time. This one's gonna get a little personal. So I have a younger sister. And when she was about two and a half, she kept talking about this imaginary friend. And this imaginary friend's name was Spirit. Her and Spirit did everything together. And everything was going fine until one day she woke up in the middle of the night hysterically crying, saying that she missed her birthday and she was freaking out that Spirit was going to be super angry at her. We calmed her down, but the next day her preschool teacher told us that she was talking about Spirit and how she had red eyes and a black tail. And after that, strange sounds started happening around the house, weird things you'd see at the corner of your eye. Not cool. And I've heard a few stories like this from other people, so it makes you think, what do kids really see? Happy Halloween! Spooky story time. Everybody loves trick-or-treating. And I remember when I was younger, my parents used to check each piece of candy before I ate any. And I hope you guys do the same. On Halloween night in 1974, Ronald Clark O'Brien laced pixie sticks with cyanide. This ultimately killed his 8-year-old son, Timothy, and he did this to get the life insurance. To cover his tracks, he also gave laced pixie sticks to his daughter and a few other children, but they never ate them. He was convicted of murder in 1975 and sentenced to death. This is when he was given the nickname of the Candyman. Be careful this Halloween. You wouldn't want to catch the spookies. I'm back! I had to take some time off to finish my graduate school program, but now I'm done. Speaking of schools, let's get right into it. Spooky story time! The University of Colorado is one of the most haunted campuses in the country. Several spirits are claimed to be present at the university. Students say there are unexplained odors, doors slamming out of nowhere, and suspicious shadows. The most famous ghost on campus goes by the name of Edith. She supposedly hung herself in the attic of one of the dorm buildings. Students experience things like channels on their TV changing randomly or furniture moving when they're asleep, but also they can hear sounds of something in the ceiling. These sounds are allegedly Edith rolling marbles across the floor, apparently something she used to do when she was alive. Students also report feeling presence or seeing things out of the corner of their eyes constantly. Giving me the spookies all over again.
Choose and chill.